Hello everyone, welcome back to the Dice Matrix. I'm here with a lifetime long friend, childhood friend of the channel, friend to everyone actually, Mr. Tolbert, or as we call him around here, Tobe. So, we're making a list. I called him up and decided, let's split this list up, because I was going to make originally a list of 10 games, like Christmas wish list games, and I thought, it'd be more fun to divide it up, plus it'll be a lot less work for me, so... So Brian, how did you make your list, buddy?
Well, I had a couple that I knew off the top of my head, but then I was going to peruse BGG, and just maybe get some reminders of games I wanted, and lo and behold, BGG is having issues, it looks like, because they had absolutely no rankings on any games, so the whole perusing of games was very difficult. So
right.
I just winged it.
So, as I was saying, how I kind of decided my list, like, of course there's games I always have an eye on, like I do something called a board game watch and all this sort of thing, but a Christmas wish list. So I thought, are these games that, like, good games that I'll never get, or games I dreamed about? Maybe they're games I played once, but I decided to mix my list up a little bit than the normal, and I put probably a variety of wish list games on mine, so I mixed my list up quite a bit. Did you do the same sort of thing, or did you stay on track better?
I left off some of my bigger Grail games that are really expensive.
Oh, like the Holy Grail kind of game?
I ain't never gonna get, but maybe someday.
Okay, all
so
right.
I didn't put those on, but
all right. Well, we'll just see how it pans out. We'll talk about it. Do you want to start, or you want me to start? We'll start with the number 5s.
It doesn't make a difference.
I'm very curious. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll start off.
All right.
Okay. I'll start off. So my number 5 is not so much a surprise, at least to this guy, because he knows I like this game even though I'm terrible at it. And this is kind of not exactly a game, but it is out there. I don't know how obtainable it is, but it's actually the expansion to Lost Ruins of Arnak. And this wasn't like probably a huge surprise for a lot of people. And it is something probably something I really, really want, to play, because I love the game so much. Like I said, I'm not very good at it. But if you played Lost Ruins of Arnak, you're just an archaeologist. You're going up a track of research to get points. You're collecting items. It's a mild deck builder. You're sending your archaeologists out to dig sites. This is a game I really love. So, that's pretty much it. You've played it a couple times with me, so you seem to like it.
It's very enjoyable. I'm very much want to try the expansion. Looks like it adds a lot of good stuff to it. Yeah,
so that definitely was going to be on my list. Now, normally that probably would have been a little bit higher, but since this is the Christmas wish list, I had to make some interesting adjustments and stuff. So, what's your number 5?
My number 5, it's an easily attainable game also. It's I've always wanted to get This War of Mine.
Okay, yeah.
It's a really Christmassy themed game there. Nice and bright and happy from what I understand.
Yeah.
But no, it sounds interesting. I really want to see the story and how it all involves, and it's supposed to be pretty challenging. You lose more than you win. But
note to those out there, he's definitely being sarcastic. It's not. It's a more of a grim theme. It's very well, I won't say dark, but a realistic. Is it kind of a post-apocalyptic world?
trying to survive.
Survival film, kind of like the book The Road sort of issue, I guess. Yeah. So no, that's a solid choice for your number. And this is our number 3 pick. No, okay. So don't worry, it's a friend. He's a friend to the channel. Okay. So anyway, This War of Mine and Lost Ruins of Arnak, the Leader's Expedition, the expansion. So, all right, number 4. I've also mentioned to Brian at one time. This has always been on my radar. This is harder to obtain. You probably know more about it than I do as far as obtainability, but it's a game called Monumental. Okay, and this game is really interesting because it has a lot of facets. You have a set of a 3x3 grid. It's how a deck. Well, you pull your cards out and you form this, and then you choose a row and a column, no matter how it is, and then those are the 5 actions you're going to take. Also, to the side, you have a board that is made up of a modular board of hexes, and you're going to choose a particular faction, like the Egyptians or the I think it's Japan or whatever, and you'll have a leader with a power, but you'll move kind of like your armies, so there's like an area control taking over stuff, but you also need to build up culture and a lot of different other things, and you can upgrade your cards as you go, and then your cards will refill, and it'll change up the aspect to the game. And I think the most interesting thing about Monumental is that they have is the in-game scoring, because you can do all this in your work, and it's all about the minutia of points, because the in-game scoring is so simple. Basically, you just score in 4 categories, and you're either going to probably get like 1 or 2 points, then like, for each knowledge card that you have, for each area that you control, for each culture that you have, and then whoever has the most will get like a bonus 3 points, and that's pretty much it. There's 4 categories, and very smooth, very simple, but as I hear, I don't know if it's still more obtainable, but I heard it was pretty hard obtainable right now.
This was actually what I thought about too. One of the other things I did is I went back and I went through all my Kickstarters. You know me, I love my Kickstarters.
Yes, you do.
And but that was one at the time I was unable to back, and it looks like a very solid game. I haven't looked into aftermarket or if it's at retail or how easy it is to get or anything. I don't know, but it's definitely one I would like to try playing.
Well, that's my number 4, Monumental.
Another one for me. This one, I don't know why it appeals to me. I've always liked space, I guess. But
I thought you were going to say economy, because I know you like those economy games.
But this from what I've seen and everything I've watched, it's like just doing 2 or 3 hours of math problems. It looks really interesting, and that's Leaving Earth.
I'm not familiar with that. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's basically you play as I believe it's USA, Russia, or Japan, and you're back in the space race days in the 50s and 60s, and you're trying to accomplish different missions by building rockets, and it's all you got to resource the engines and then test the engines, and this engine can do this much weight to get you to here to there, and it was a lot of math, but it just looks really interesting to me. I've always been interested in...
What's its core mechanics? I was just curious about that.
Math, it looks like.
It looks like math is your core mechanic.
Yeah.
I'll bring my calculator.
Yeah. No, there's some... it's all done with cards, so you're just buying cards to improve...
So a lot of hand management probably,
Yeah, it's not necessarily hand management, but it's more like, it's like... You have to buy so many engines to get to the moon.
Gotcha.
But to use those engines, you have another deck that you flip over to see if you make it to the moon or if it blows up. And so you can test the engines, and you can remove cards from that deck to make it more of a certainty. So it seems very interesting. It's a game I've been wanting to get for a while.
So a little bit of deck modification in there too,
yeah,
slightly.
Yeah.
I have not heard of this game at all, so that's interesting. And it's called what again?
Leaving Earth.
Leaving Earth. This is number 4. All right, well, we're doing it now. All right, my number 3, and I'm predicting maybe crossover, maybe not on this one. This game is obtainable, but not at stores. It's an older game, and this is Star Wars Queen's Gambit. And this is a massive older game after Episode 1 came out. And I've just watched reviews on channels and some playthroughs, and it just looks like my type of game. And the truth is, I call it the wish list. I more want to play it than probably own it, and if somehow I got it, I would probably just give it to you. But you can't get this for less than $200+ minimal, and that's probably a beat-up copy. I mean, you're looking at probably $300 to get this game because, first of all, it's not just out of print. I think it was Hasbro, and this is... I don't know who put that out originally. He'll look that up. But the whole thing is, it takes place Episode 1, and you're controlling... Well, essentially 4 arenas, but think about 3 in the movie. So you have Qui-Gon Jinn fighting Darth Maul in one, personal section. Then you have the battle droids versus the Gungans, and then you have the palace guards versus the droids there. And then you also have Anakin flying in space. So 4 areas, but some things can drift over, and it's all card-oriented. You draw so many cards, I think it's 5, and then you plan it out and you lay them down, and you both reveal them. And, then you can take actions. It'll say you can do this or this. And then you take turns and then you resolve the cards. And so some of the stuff can carry over. So like if Darth Maul ends up defeating Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, then he can actually go help in the palace.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And also some of the Gungans can help out in the palace if they end up taking over that area, or the droids can be moved out. And it's just a real fascinating, for how old it is, the production is still pretty good. Looks a little crazy, a little busy, a little messy, but I just would like to try this, So that's on my wish list, just for that.
That one was on my short list too. I've always wanted to try it.
I was thinking about it. I've been across it.
It's Avalon Hill.
Avalon Hill makes that. Yeah. Who eventually, I guess, Wizards of the Coast probably owns them now. So yeah.
Well, that was definitely one that I was looking at.
So that was my number 3, right? Number 3. Okay, so
my number 3 is by Splotter. I know
I've heard of that game. I've heard of that company. Yes.
I know you enjoyed our playthrough of Food Chain Magnate.
Not a biggest fan. I did like the choice for mechanics. That was the most interesting. Like trying to math it out kind of card thing. But I didn't overall. But it wasn't. You know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. I thought it was going to be like a 3 for me, but it was more like close to 6-ish, I guess. But it wasn't something I want to go back to because also the length wasn't too bad in a 2-player game.
This one might sound more interesting to you.
Okay,
here's
the pitch.
It's a work replacement.
Okay, I like that.
Some say it's one of the first work replacement games.
Okay.
So it's old. It's bus.
Just BUS, bus.
You're basically making bus routes.
Interesting.
One of the interesting things is you have 20 action tokens, and you have to take at least 2 actions on a turn, but you can take more. But if you take more at the end of the game, other players might have more actions than you because you've already used your allotted 20 actions for the game.
Wow. Okay.
So it just sounds very interesting.
It's interesting. And the whole premise of bus is like making routes, you said?
Those basically, you have passengers that want to go to 3 different destinations depending on the time of day.
Okay.
They either want to go to work, they want to go to the pub, or they want to go home.
Right.
So you're building your route and putting out passengers and getting more buses and
well, I like the theme, and it sounds like the mechanics suit me better.
And being a Splotter, small production run, it's not available. Capstone just did
like a re-implementation of it,
re-release with new art and an anniversary edition of it, which is pretty much out of stock everywhere. So hopefully.
So if you're looking to acquire it, you could probably get it through the Capstone eventually if they.
Hopefully they do a reprint of it.
Okay, or it's hard to find, or somebody's selling their Kickstarter copy for
but that one
$10 more.
It sounds very interesting.
That I would try it. It sounds good. So Bus by originally Splotter and it Capstone now. So.
Yeah, Capstone's. Working with Capstone.
All right, now we're getting down to the nitty gritty, the 2s and the 1s. All right, so this game, from what I understand, and even I went to Tabletop Simulator and tried to walk through, and the rule book is awful. And even though I don't feel like I'm the best rule book interpreter, I like to get things down, but still the presentation and like some games I love, like Mage Knight, for instance. I love Mage Knight. The rule book was not written the best. Everything is in there. It just the way they presented it and the way you got to hunt it down is not friendly. And sometimes this game, I don't know if it was French, but it was definitely probably by different language designers at first. I notice they sometimes, especially French, have translating issues over, and I'm not sure if that's the case here too. But the rule book was a bear, but I just love the theme, and it's Nemesis. And the newest one, Nemesis Lockdown, I probably like them both pretty well. And Lockdown just also appeals to me because it's about you already, I guess, have the aliens and you're trying to keep them contained or they're escaping or something. I don't know everything on it, but that's probably the more obtainable now. I don't know. But anything about these massive aliens trying to kill you, your ownership, I'm not always the biggest fan of you could have a shared goal at the end or whatever, but the theme I think looks rich enough that it would keep me interested. I definitely want to play something like that. Eventually I'm going to find a game that just hits home that's going to have this theme that I just love. And I'm hoping that Nemesis is it, so I just got to do a real play of it instead of me just trying to move some pieces on Tabletop Simulator, which worked okay, but I wasn't really sure about a lot of the rules. I was confused a little bit. So anyway, that's my number 2 Christmas wishlist game. What is yours, sir?
My number 2 is it's not available at the moment. It hasn't even been released yet, but they had a Kickstarter, but they canceled it to go back and make improvements to the game, which I'm all for. Put out the best game you can, but Bloodstone.
I've heard of this.
It's the big arena combat where you can do cooperative and fight the monsters or PvP, But just the coverage I've seen of it, it looks like a really awesome game, and it's one that I will be backing.
When did it come out?
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. They did a Kickstarter a few months ago, but
it hasn't released out of the Kickstarter.
They actually ended up canceling that Kickstarter because they wanted to go back and make some tweaks and make improvements to the game. So it hasn't relaunched yet. But as soon as
it does, you're going to be on board for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe Miracle Santa can stuff it in your stocking. It won't be me. But awesome, Bloodstone. All right, who makes that? What's the company? Do you remember? It's no big deal if you don't.
Druid City Games.
Yeah, and if not, I'll look it up and put it on the outro or something here. All right, number 1 Christmas wish list game, at least as of today. This is an old game, and you can buy this, but probably not less than like $80-$90, which is probably closer to the price that it came out when it was brand new. And that's probably a used copy you'd be buying of this game. It doesn't look very well, and I know I'm kind of beating around the bush here, but I think you'd be surprised about this because you probably heard of it, but you probably never actually even seen it played. But it's actually Star Trek Fleet Captains. Have you ever seen a video on this? I'll describe it, and maybe it'll bring back if you've seen it or not. Okay, so basically, you can play a 4-player, but it's kind of like one of those, you don't really play 4-player, it's really a 2-player game. Okay, you know what I'm saying? If not, you're just basically sharing your hand. Nobody likes to do that in those games. So, and I love 2-player games, and I like these kind of conflictual, you don't have to, but in this game you probably want to, and it kind of encourages it. So there's these massive hexes, and one of the big things they complain about, like if you watch a Tom Vassell review or something, I remember the good video to watch if you want to see more about this game, Star Trek Fleet Captains, is the Miami Dice original on what's his name, the Dice Tower, right? So anyway, but they complain about the components. But the whole thing is, you have these hexes that are all face down. So when you're leaving your area, so like you're basically playing probably like the Klingons or something, right? And I'm the Federation. And I think that's all you start off with, and they started coming out with more expansions. They have these huge hexes, and you have to spin movement based upon your thruster drive. And so as things come out, then you get to reveal, and then each space will have, when you flip it over, it might have like, something could happen. So you can pull an event card. You have to either deal with it or resolve it or make choices or whatever. You could also fight things. You can fight each other, but each tile has also movement points, and so based upon your thrusters, like I might have a thrust of 15, but to go through this area I need 7, to use 7 of them, and so forth. But things can get upgraded, you can add new cards or whatever and play things. But the interesting thing, like one of the great mechanics in the game is, there's 10 different types of decks, and at the beginning you choose like 4 of them, based upon how you want to play. Heavier combat, heavier exploration, heavy, peaceful, whatever. And then I would choose mine, and then we play with those decks. So there's a lot of variety. And then you don't even play with all the tiles. There's probably be like 6 exploration tiles, and it's a huge board. And they use beautiful models, Star Trek models. They have, the Enterprise and all these different things. And then they have the captains themselves that can be played sometimes as, not even the captain, but they can have quirks in it. Like, this person might just have like this ability, or you can play as a crew member, and they'll give things if they're part of your crew. But there's multiple models, cool exploration board, just a lot of things going on, and I've always wanted to play this. And it's just one of those games, and I love Star Trek, I love Star Wars, but those are probably my 2 of the highest favorite, celebrated things that I play. And I probably like, I don't know, I think you like Star Trek too, but I know that you probably edge Star Wars, definitely, because you're more of a Star Wars guy. But anyway, that's my number 1, Star Trek Fleet Captains.
No, I have seen it, and it does look very interesting. Love the space exploration games, so
yeah.
And so my number 1, I'm gonna go back a ways here.
We're going back in the time machine here.
I'm gonna say one thing, and it'll be an easy guess for you.
Oh no!
Sitting on my back porch playing
something on your back porch. Oh, what we played on your back porch?
A long time ago. Okay,
well, there's 2 things that we did, right? One was an original CCG game, but you're not talking about that, right? Were you talking about the barbarian and one person technically is like the dungeon master?
Hero Quest.
Yeah, Hero Quest. Yeah.
I love to have Hero Quest. It's one of the games. I mean, we've been playing games since.
Well, you can acquire that now, can't you?
Yes, they just did the reissue of it. Looks nice. So I take the original over the reissue, but I would like.
Yeah,
to have
I heard they
repressed.
stayed very faithful. They didn't really change much. They just basically reprinted it in a nicer new box, but all the art's supposed to be the same.
But yeah, I would like to have that one just because it's one of the games that really showed me what board games could be.
Well, how much is that going for? You could probably pick that up. Not too
I
bad.
haven't looked.
Yeah, but could always be. Never know. Maybe a reindeer will drop one off by your house or something. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that was as high on your list. I thought that might have been in the top 10.
Yeah.
But that's a nostalgic pick.
Yeah, it's just there because.
But it would still be fun to play.
Yeah,
it would be. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, man, thanks for doing this list with me.
Yeah, sure.
And that's our top 10 Christmas wish list games. Thank you so much for watching the Dice Majors. Until next time, keep the dice rolling.